Hey everybody, welcome back to Be Like Christ. I wanted to make a video today about Jesus's post-resurrection appearances. So the times that Jesus appeared to people after his resurrection, but before he ascended and went back to heaven. It was only about 40 days that he was on earth. And the reason I wanted to make this video is a couple different reasons, two reasons in particular. Number one is that this information can be kind of hard to gather because it actually spans like 6 different books in the New Testament. You got to go to 6 different books to find particular details. The second reason is there's actually a lot of confusion about the events following the resurrection. If you've read one of the gospel accounts and you just read it straight through, usually it's pretty easy to understand, but when you collect all the details from all 4 Gospels and even a little bit from the book of Acts and other places, it can actually be pretty challenging to harmonize all those details and to figure out how they fit together. That's led a lot of people to accuse the text of contradicting itself. In fact, I was just reading a Wikipedia article that was claiming that. But if you take the time to study it, you can see how all the pieces fall into place and you can create a story. But that's kind of hard to do. So this information is at least part of figuring out that harmony, and maybe you're viewing this video because you're in that situation, or for whatever reason. I would just like to put this information out here, and I've created this little handout. I have it on my iPad, but it's going to be available PDF for free download on our website, tobelikechrist.com. So you can check that out. Link is down in the description. So let's talk about the appearances of Jesus after his resurrection. And it's important to note that nobody actually knows all the people or all of the times or the instances when Jesus appeared to people after he resurrected from the dead. The Bible gives us, or records for us, a few, 11, 12 maybe of those instances, but not all of them. And the Bible never intended to be a comprehensive list of them all. So nobody knows for sure. There were probably many, many more that are not recorded for us, but these are the ones that we have. And I've included some text references so that you can look them up and read the context that surrounds them all. And I'll say that these 12 that I have listed here on this page are, to the best of my knowledge, they're in chronological order, but it's difficult to determine the exact order of them. And so just keep that in mind. Don't take this as gospel or anything. So the first person that Jesus appeared to after he resurrected, and he was actually at the tomb, right outside the tomb when he did this, he appeared to Mary Magdalene. You remember, she thought that he was the gardener, and he reveals himself to her, and she realizes that it's the Lord. The second group of people, or the second group that sees Jesus after his resurrection, are the women who accompanied Mary Magdalene to the tomb early that Sunday morning. You remember they found the stone had been rolled away, and then they run off to tell the other apostles. Well, it seems like on their way, Jesus makes an appearance to them and they worship him. You can read about that in Matthew chapter 28, verse 9. Number 3, Jesus appears to Simon Peter. Now, there's only 2 references to this in the Bible, and they're very brief. And I'm not aware of any others. But in Luke 24, verse 34, and in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 5, it's mentioned that Jesus made an appearance, seemingly a private appearance, to Simon Peter. And that would make sense, considering Peter had denied him, and Jesus didn't want him to have to live in that grief too much, any longer than he had to, right? And so he makes this appearance to him after his resurrection and before he meets with the other apostles. Number 4, the fourth appearance, happened on the road from Jerusalem to a town called Emmaus. Jesus walked along and talked with 2 men, and he didn't reveal his identity to these 2 men right away. But when they went into one of the men's house, Jesus reveals himself to them, and they realize who it is and that Jesus is resurrected, and they run all the way back to the city to tell the apostles that Jesus has resurrected. And then right after that, Jesus appears to this room full of apostles and disciples in John 20, verse 19. So there were some apostles there, not all of them, there were some, and there were also some of Jesus' other followers. appearance number 6, the Lord appears 8 days later to some of the apostles and Thomas. This is that story where if you've ever heard Thomas the apostle called Doubting Thomas, it's because he didn't initially believe that the Lord had resurrected. So 8 days after Jesus has appeared to some of the others, he appears again to the others, and Thomas is with them. And then Thomas believes finally that Jesus has come back to life. Number 7. This actually takes place up in Galilee, around the Sea of Galilee, or the Sea of Tiberias, as it's called in the English Standard Version on this occasion. Remember, I think there were 7 apostles who were present at this appearance, and they were fishing, and Jesus appears to them, and this is kind of where Jesus has that conversation with Peter about, Peter, do you love me? He asks him 3 times. He responds 3 times. It's at the very end of the book of John. That's number 8. That's number 7. And then number 8, Jesus meets with all 11 of the apostles, and this is in Galilee on a mountain. And he gives them the Great Commission. Go to all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Matthew chapter 28, verse 16. Number 9. Now this is not found in the Gospels. This is information that we get later on in the book of 1 Corinthians from Paul when he's writing about Jesus' resurrection in chapter 15. Paul writes that there was one occasion which Jesus appeared to over 500 people all at once. And this isn't recorded in the Gospels. We don't know exactly when it happened, but Paul writes this down in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 6. Paul also mentions the very next verse that Jesus appeared to James. And this is probably not a reference to James the apostle, the brother of John, but rather to James, Jesus' brother through Mary, or is sometimes called his half-brother. I don't know if that's really an accurate term, but we know that Mary had other children, and this James becomes very prominent in the early church, especially in the church in Jerusalem. He becomes a believer after the resurrection, and part of what changed his mind probably was this appearance by his resurrected brother to him after he had saw him dead on a cross. That's 1 Corinthians 15, verse 7. So then number 11, the 11 apostles were with Jesus when he took them out of the city and they went to Bethany, or near Bethany, and Jesus not resurrected. I already did that. Jesus took them out of the city near Bethany, and he ascended back to heaven. And this would be the last time that the apostles saw Jesus. That's recorded in the very beginning of the book of Acts, which is why we're talking about it right now. And also in Luke chapter 24, verse 50, but you have to read both Luke and Acts to kind of get all the details. And then finally, the resurrected Lord appears to the apostle Paul. Now, this appearance is a little bit different, but Paul lists it in the appearances of Jesus in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And he says, last of all, the Lord appeared to me. So there was that instance where Paul was an enemy of Christ and of the Christians, and on the road to Damascus in Acts chapter 9, Jesus appeared to him. And that was what changed his mind about rather than fighting against Christ, he joins Christ's side and becomes a follower and a disciple. So those are the appearances that I'm aware of in the New Testament. If there's any that I missed or messed up, let me know, but I think I've got them. Took me quite a while to sort out some of that information, but that handout is available down in the description below if you want it, and I hope this has been helpful to you, and I will see you next time, Lord willing.